Okay, before I get started with this video, two things. One, this video is actually a follow-on video from the video I put up last week where I was looking at recording guitar with single mics and how you might choose your mic placement. In today's video, we're going to take those recordings we did and we're going to look at them in terms of mixing. So two, this video is not going to be a how to mix acoustic guitar video for a couple of reasons. One being, I don't feel qualified to make those sorts of videos as I am still very much a work in progress as a mix engineer myself, but also because a lot of those general rules that people can give you about mixing different instruments are not always going to apply. So instead, today's video is actually going to be just us exploring together what we can do mix-wise with these recordings we've got. Hi guys, it's Emma, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to the chaos. I do all things music related on here, from audio engineering style content to production and songwriting challenges to just talking about musician life and music things. Today's video is on the side of production and audio engineering tips kind of content, because we're going to take some guitar tracks that I recorded the other day for another video, and we're going to today look at mixing them and putting them into the context of an actual track. So I've done a lot of prep for this video to make sure that we can just go straight in. I have put together a really basic arrangement to go with one of the guitar parts that I recorded. I have basically just gotten Logic to generate some drums for me, thrown on a little bit of bass, thrown on a bit of keyboard, and I've done a basic vocal. Really basic. I've just thrown some words over the top of it just to give me something to work with vocal-wise. And I've also gone and put all of my guitar parts into time. So when I recorded those guitar parts for that video, I made the mistake of not recording them to a click track, because I wasn't thinking about actually using them for anything afterwards, so I didn't bother having a click track and figuring out a tempo. So they're actually all at different tempos. They weren't even perfectly in time based on what tempo I figured out they were roughly playing out. Like this one you can see was really all over the place. So I've had to do a really basic edit to try and get them in time enough that it's not distracting. So don't judge like the composition of this, because the point here is not that this is a song that I ever put out in any way. What we're focusing on here is how the guitar is going to sit mix-wise in each of the different versions we've got here, and what choices we might make in terms of plugins that we might choose to use on the mix decisions we make. And I also want to look at how each of these different mic placements that we've chosen, when you're going to record the guitar, you know, you're going to want to think about what these different mic placements will achieve in a mix later. So we're going to look at that as well a little bit. And by the end of the video, I am basically just hoping to have practiced mixing different types of guitar with different mic placements in different ways and seeing what we can achieve with them. And hopefully you guys will be able to take away some useful tips, thoughts, and ideas to bear in mind when you're recording guitar yourself, and feel free to share any that you have already or that you come across later on in the comments. Okay, so let's start off with just looking at each of these as they are. So I haven't done anything with the vocal that I've recorded. I've just recorded a vocal over each of them, but we're going to look at that as we go. First of all, I just want to listen to each of these. So each of these guitar parts have exactly the same mix on them currently. So all I have done, just so you can see, they've all got this, is I've put a little bit of EQ on. I pulled down the bass a little bit here, and I've pulled out two frequencies that on all of them, because those are just frequencies that resonate in my guitar and in this room. When you're mixing anything, you're going to pull out an EQ, and you're going to have to figure out if there's anything that's jumping out that needs to get pulled down, any frequencies that resonate in the room, anything that's just coming through a bit bassier than you need it, something that's getting in the way of the sound itself sounding its best and sitting well in the track. And you're basically always going to roll off your low end on anything that isn't bass and drums, but that is a well-known trick that you'll be able to encounter anywhere. I don't need to tell you that. Then I've just got a little bit of compression, just pulling down the extremes of the first hits of the strum. That's more needed on some of the close mic ones than it is on things like the room mic or the body mic and things like that. And then I've put on a reverb. I just picked a Space Designer one, and I went with a nice room. I just went with a room reverb first of all, because basically a room reverb is just the most generic kind of reverb you can put on. It's not any really special effect. A room reverb is designed to mimic what an instrument would sound like if it was recorded in that particular untreated space. So this first of all is our between the 12th and 14th fret, very close to the strings, about 6 inches from the strings recording. And here is the one in the same position on the fretboard, but further away from the strings at around 12 inches. This is the weirdest sounding one. This is the body mic. So this is me placing the literally down low on the body of the guitar. So this is quite far away from the sound hole of the guitar, up near the fretboard. And this one is one where every other one of these I had the mic set to cardioid, but for this one I had it close mic'd around that 12th and 14th fret area again, but I set the microphone to omnidirectional. I personally think that that one gives the closest to what it would sound like if I had stereo mic'd. This is the room mic. And last but not least, this is the one where I placed the microphone directly in front of the sound hole. Okay, so you can hear just with them all with the exact same mix on, the mic placement alone is what is changing how those guitars feel. Some are more dramatically different than others, like the room mic and the body mic are very dramatically different from all of the other mics there. What tone you're looking for is going to be decided by all sorts of different factors. One of the biggest ones being, are you looking at creating a track like this where you've got multiple parts? Like, we could have even more parts than this. Like, imagine now if I add harmonies on top of that and, you know, maybe I've got some synths playing some chords. If it starts to get quite busy, your track, then you might pick a particular tone of guitar that's going to suit a busier track better. At the moment, if I were to do a track just like this one, then these close mic ones, this Omni one, those are probably going to be good ones for a track like this where you've just got drums, bass, vocal, guitar, maybe a bit of piano, because the track isn't overall as busy. But if you start adding lots of harmonies, maybe lots of synths, you might actually want to pick maybe your room mic one. You can feel that isn't taking up as much space in the mix there. It isn't sitting up as forefront, so it's got room there for other things to go on. And you could really hammer that on by making certain mix choices. So let's have a look at some different mix choices we might make for these guitar parts and why. First thing I want to have a look at is to pull up another EQ on each of them and to make some decisions about EQ. If we were EQing it just for this track as is, with all these parts on it, what are some decisions I might make about the EQ on different ones to make it sit nicely with the other parts we've got? So something I was thinking with this one is because of how close it is, it's very bassy. Hear that? So it's getting in the way of the bass a little bit on this. If we add in another EQ, bringing down that bass a little bit to allow the actual bass to come through a bit more. It's still fuller and bassier sounding than the mic with the same placement on the fretboard, but further away from the strings. So that full bassiness, you can tone it down without compromising on the actual full bassy tone that you get of really close miking a guitar. So if that's what you like about it, then you don't have to worry about dipping the bass down on this too much, because, you know, there's so much there that even when I dip it down, it's still bassier than that. You might make a similar decision about our sound hole one, because our sound hole one as well, it's even bassier still. So again, roll it off. And then also, my bass is actually really trying to poke through around this 100 mark. So if I bring this guitar down around this 100 mark, my bass comes through more. I would do it also on the piano, so let's just do that quickly on the piano to get that out of the way. Is this my piano? This is my piano, yeah. What would I maybe do in terms of the relationship, if I was going to use piano on this track like I've got it on here, what would I do about the relationship between the piano and the guitar? Because they sit in very similar areas of the frequency spectrum. Your guitars, like, they'll have frequencies throughout the spectrum, but they generally tend to live in this sort of area. This 500 to 1 to 2K mark, these mids here, this is where a lot of the presence of the guitar. You can hear that's where it comes through. But the piano, yeah, our piano is coming through in pretty much exactly the same sort of area. But our guitar has more going on in the higher range than this piano sound. So I could solo a band, not quite that tight, like this. Closer to this 1K than to the 500 area is where I'd say the nicest bit of our guitar is. Around that area, we might want to dip our piano down to make room for our guitar. Now we want to make room for our piano in our guitar as well. So I think our piano is probably, in contrast, wanting to come through here. Yeah, around that mark is where our piano wants to come through. So, similar to what we just done, we want to dip our guitar down a bit. Around there. We don't want to dip out loads like this. We want it a relatively narrow-ish band, but not too narrow. We're not like frequency hunting and pulling out harsh frequency. Personally, those are choices I would make if I was looking to mix these parts together. I would maybe then also do a little bit of a lift in the higher frequencies on the guitar. Maybe you would want your piano to come through more than that. One thing you'd do is you would bring the volume down, but you would also maybe not boost these high ranges. Those are some choices you might make. You could also make your guitar sit further back by having a heavier amount of reverb on it. So if we do a different reverb, I am going to use one of my Slate Digital ones, just because I've gotten quite familiar with this reverb, so I know I can do this relatively quickly in this reverb. Is the only reason for that. Really. So this is it without that reverb. And with. So yeah, that makes it sit further back. Personally, if I'd gotten a relatively close mic'd guitar like this, that's probably not how I would treat it. If I had this other one here, this less close mic'd one, still close mic'd, but not close mic'd, you know? I might give that more that sort of treatment. If I was looking for that kind of sound, I'd use that kind of mic placement. So let's compare the two with the pretty much the same thing on them again. If I wanted to do that, I would pick the slightly less close mic'd guitar personally. But obviously, you might prefer the other version. You might prefer getting it to sit a bit further back in the track, but you still like the fullness of that close mic'd sound, that really full body bassiness to it. I personally find that that sort of thing is what gives an acoustic guitar quite a bit of presence in something and makes it a bit more of a main character. Let's have a look at some of the weirder ones. Let's have a look at this body mic one. What would we do with this? Personally, if I had mic'd a guitar like this, I'd be embracing its weirdness and using that. So I'm still going to roll off these lows quite a bit, and probably because there is a decent amount of bassiness to that, and it is still in the way of my bass, so I would still probably knock down these bassy frequencies as well. I'd maybe take even more out of these highs, so the boxiness can really come through. Or maybe you'd want to boost them to give yourself more of an acoustic guitar feel still, but with that extra character going on here. It's sounding a bit funny at the moment because the vocal's got nothing in it, so I'm going to start treating this vocal a little bit. So I'd probably ramp up the reverb on this guitar as well. Let's try it with this other reverb that we just put on. I wanna treat you gently. This has got almost an electric guitar feel to it, this boxiness, like a tiny bit of saturation or distortion or something like that. Not that much. I wanna treat you gently. I wanna treat you softly. Or really go for it with a delay. I'm gonna throw another reverb on the vocal as well, just to illustrate what we could actually do it, because that vocal isn't sitting nicely, mostly because it needs another reverb on it. I wanna treat you gently. Treat you softly. What I would do if I was to work with this is I'd swap out my piano part here, really simple chords on a synth, something like that. Okay, I think that's enough messing around with that one, but you get an idea for how you could use one of these weird ones and really do something different with it. I wanna treat you gently. Let's have a look at this room mic one though, because this one I really like. And what you could do is you could really lean into how far back it sits. It was bus number 7, wasn't it? Yeah. By adding even more reverb. So you can see we can treat each of these differently and get really different vibes. Anywho, I'm going to leave it there for today because I could go crazy just messing around with all of these all day. But I feel like that's been really good practice for me personally in terms of just going through and listening to each of these different guitar tones and thinking about what I would then want to do with them in a mix. And I hope that by doing this, I have given you some ideas of ways that you might treat different types of guitar that have been mic'd up in different ways, and things that you're going to want to bear in mind when you're actually miking up your guitar, because obviously the main thing that makes each of these sound different is nothing I've done in the mix. It is entirely that mic placement. Like I said, I am still very much a work in progress as a mix engineer, and so something I really like about sharing my journey online is that sometimes people will share helpful tips and advice of their own and other experiences in the comments below. Sharing is caring, so feel free to do so. If you enjoyed this video, then you might like my content in general, in which case you might want to hit that subscribe button, but I know that that is a big decision to make, so do feel free to check out some of my other content before you do so. If you want to follow me on all of my socials, they will be linked in the description below, as well as a link to my Buy Me a Coffee where I put up outtakes videos for my members. But you can also just send me one-off donations on there if you like the video and just want to go, cheers mate. Okay, that is all for this video. I shall see you guys next week with another fun music related video of some sort.